From atop the melting mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, including all of our affiliates across North America, TalkStream Live, and Revolution Radio digitally. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirk's Newswire, and much more. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Mike Browne is a man who loves the strange, weird, and bizarre stories that come across Canada. The man behind Dark Poutine, a great podcast out of Vancouver, British Columbia, that has over 8 million downloads. Mike is the creator and researcher, as well as joined by his co-host, longtime friend Scott Hemenway. Together, they get into the most strange stories, from true crime to riding barrels over Niagara Falls. Plus, you can't forget every UFO, ghost, cryptid, and ogopogo in between. Darkpoutine.com is the website. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Mr. Mike Browne, it's been a while since we had you back on the show. We got a lot of requests saying, when's Mike going to come back on? You know, it's been about a year, man. Been about a year.
Has it been time already? Holy crow.
I know.
Yeah, I know. Time has just flown by, and now it seems to be creeping, though.
Isn't that true? Isn't that true? You know what amazes me? I'm an introvert by trade, okay, and I'm very proud to be an introvert, but I cannot believe how lazy I have got and become since everybody's at home.
Right.
Like I sit on my couch. Yeah, I do work during the day, okay, but I'll do a couple of hours. But like normally, like when my son is at school, my daughter's at school, Mrs. SOR's at work, and I'm battling here all by myself. I'm trying to do things to keep busy during the day. And now that everybody's home, it kind of feels like that lazy Sunday every day. Yeah. It really does. And I can't stand it. Can't stand it. But that's okay. How you doing with everything?
We're doing okay. My wife is working at home now. She's in the basement. She works for the provincial insurance company, so she's doing her thing down there, and I'm up here. I mean, I was doing this for 2 years anyway. I've been trying to make my show go and writing a book for the last 2 years. So, you know, everybody's just in my world now all of a sudden.
Well, that's, doesn't it feel strange? So you know what it's like to be an introvert at your own home, man. It feels great. You can do things at your pace. You can do everything that you want to do at your leisure. And then all of a sudden, you're thrust into this whole thing where it's like, my goodness.
Yeah.
Why are you people here? Who are you people?
Yeah. I'm trying not to watch the news as much as I was. I was obsessed with it there for a while. But, since a certain somebody made Vince McMahon his media guy and trying to restart the economy with the king of wrestling, I don't know, whatever.
Oh, hey, whatever happens, Vince has great tight hair. Great tight hair.
He does.
Even though his product is nowhere as good as when it was in the 80s and early 90s. But that's just me. That's just me.
Have you been watching the dark side of wrestling on
No.
Oh, it's amazing. You ought to check it out. It's essentially, it's all the darker sides of the wrestling world. And you would think that they would go immediately to Owen Hart, but they still haven't gotten to that story yet. But they have talked about how the hitman Bret Hart got ripped off, and it's great. The latest episode is Superfly Jimmy Snuka from back.
Yes, and remember that? Did he murder his fiance or girlfriend or something?
It was he was having an affair with this woman, and apparently she slipped and fell and hit her head, and amazingly, he had nothing to do with it, and said that he came home from a meeting and found her unconscious, and he couldn't wake her, and she passed away. But There are there are conflicting stories there. I won't spoil it for people, but have a listen. Have a listen to that. It's definitely good.
Mike, for people in our audience who are not familiar with dark poutine, immediately they think it's a fantastic food, which it is. Let's be honest, which it is. All right. But what made you get into creating a podcast that kind of delves into the stranger stories that have happened across Canada, considering everything from, true crime and strange murder cases right through to, UFO sightings and the Ogopogo and people deciding that, hey, let's get drunk and go on a barrel and take it over Niagara Falls to see if we live. What made you get into this?
Honestly, I was a big fan of shows like That's Incredible, Real People, Unsolved Mysteries, all those kind of things when I was a kid. And I loved Robert Stack's voice. I just loved his presence and all that kind of thing. And I thought, well, one day I want to tell those kind of cool stories. And I noticed that nobody really was telling Canadian stories at all. And there are a lot of really freaking weird stories from around Canada. So I thought, why not? I'll just sort of throw my hat in this podcast ring with the other folks who are doing it and try to do something just a little different. And it seems to have caught on.
Do you think that it caught on because, let's face it, as Canadians, we love this type of television programming that comes out of the United States, and we could never, ever figure out why it doesn't happen here. It's much like, Mike, and you'll understand when I say this, there are no Canadian paranormal television shows. Everything that we want to watch, whether it's about ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, it all comes out of the United States, yet Canada's a hotbed for Bigfoot. Canada's a hotbed for UFOs. Canada's a hotbed for cryptids like Ogopogo and other lake monsters and sea monsters, mermaids. We have it all here, except the production companies don't want to throw the money into it to really teach the people what is actually strange and awesomely strange about this country.
Right. I think a big part of it is our audience is a tenth less than the U.S. audience. So they think that people in the U.S. won't be interested in our product, so they won't be able to sell it. And if you look at the Oak Island, Curse of Oak Island, those are two American brothers who are working here in Canada. It's totally taking place in Canada, but it's not a Canadian-produced show. It ticks me off a little bit, frankly, but the whole idea that Canadian stories are boring or we don't have the same kind of interesting stuff going on here that they have across the border, I think is balderdash. And honestly, people have responded in kind. I have downloads from Iceland and, Nigeria and places like that. It's fantastic. I look every week and see what new country has checked in on us, and it's amazing. People are definitely interested in Canadian stories because they've heard Ted Bundy, they've heard John Wayne Gacy, they've heard I could go on and on. Jeffrey Dahmer, all of those kind of
Eileen Wuornos, all the good ones.
Yeah, they've been, excuse the pun, beaten to death, right? But there are other stories out there. If you want to talk crime, Canada has an interesting crime history that goes back a long time. And not to mention our supernatural and paranormal history with the indigenous folks. I mean, the Ogopogo, it was actually an indigenous legend that came about long before the European settlers ever got here. And, so it's not Loch Ness. It's not something that's simple. It's something more convoluted and kind of twisty and turny. And it's a fairly interesting hole to fall down, let's just say.
True. And it's funny because Canada has a lot of serial killers. I still believe there is one running around the Vancouver area down to Seattle that is the reason why we're seeing all these missing feet showing up on the shores.
That was my first episode. Yeah, we covered that in our episode, the floating feet. And I would actually like to revisit it one day because I don't feel like I was just getting my chops at the time, and I don't feel like I covered it in the way that I would really like to. But
yes,
it's such a fascinating thing. Like, how many pairs of feet have washed up between here and Seattle? And in Seattle, actually, a whole leg washed up with a shoe on it inside a garbage bag. So tell me that's an accident. You know,
absolutely.
It is not.
I want to give a shout out to Goddess Michelle on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. She is a huge fan of yours. She wanted to say hi. And if she's listening to this show, this means that she is taking a night off from being a registered nurse, and she's doing some fantastic work helping with the coronavirus and where she works and everything like that. So we love you, Michelle, and I wanted to get that thank you in publicly rather than during a break.
Well, thank you for listening to the show, Michelle, and thank you for what you're doing. Stay safe. And I get messages from a lot of nurses who, in their downtime, will be listening to the show while on their shift. And I'm thinking, I hope you're not listening to me while you're trying to give somebody a needle or something like that. You might miss the vein. But yeah, there's so many people out there who are so kind right now. And these people who are still going to work on the bus, you know, like showing up every day and putting their lives on the line. And we talk about heroes, and I guess these guys, these medical professionals, truck drivers, even the guys at McDonald's who are serving people through the drive-through, in a way, those people are real heroes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you cover a whole gamut of everything. And you know, you started off mentioning Ogopogo.
Yeah.
And this was an episode that you did recently on darkpoutine.com if people want to check it on out. What led you down this path? Because I think for every Canadian, if we talk about the woo and the strangeness, it always seems to start with Ogopogo.
Yeah. Well, Ogopogo was something that I've always kind of been interested in. As a little kid, I would read a little bit about Ogopogo. I grew up in Nova Scotia, and I heard about Ogopogo there in relation to Loch Ness or things like that. But it wasn't until the internet came that I was able to really study up on these kind of things. But Ogopogo is a super interesting thing, and the last sightings are very recent. It's not something that doesn't keep happening. There's videos of people stopping their cars along the road beside Lake Okanagan and pointing their cell phone cameras at something flipping around in the lake, and they're not entirely sure what it is. So I saw a recent news story about it, and I thought, yeah, I guess it's time to do that again. But when I worked in the film business, I used to be in locations. I did a really crappy movie of the week. It was called Beyond Loch Ness, and we shot it all in Alouette Lake. And apparently, the Loch Ness monster had swum through underground caverns and come up in Alouette Lake in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, and was laying eggs around and then eating people off docks. And one of the people that they ate was a really good actor named, I can't remember his name, Donnelly Rhodes. He was in Danger Bay and all those crazy shows back when we were kids. So
horrible CBC productions, to be honest.
Yes, exactly. Those CBC ones, the minute that you see them, the lighting is so bad and the sets are terrible, you know instantly this was produced in Canada.
Oh, yes. Oh, very much so. You know, our American audience, and about 80% of our audience is American, and we're working on the Canadian side. You know, thank you to Saga 960 AM for picking us up and getting us out on the East Coast. But I got to tell you, for a lot of our audience that is American, you have no idea how bad Canadian television was and is. It's horrible. It's horrible. There's no creativity. It's terrible.
The Beachcombers was good.
Okay, take away the Beachcombers and Kids in the Hall.
Yeah.
I mean, we couldn't even get, you got to realize you're talking to people who couldn't even get SCTV right.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you screw up SCTV when it is one of the most magnificent comedy shows of the 70s and 80s?
No, I don't know.
A Canadian could, and
Yeah.
we did.
Well,
you
you've
go to
got,
Chicago.
you've got those great shows like what was the one with the Mountie in it with Paul? I can't remember his name.
Oh, Due South. Wasn't
That's
a fan of that.
Yeah.
Wasn't a fan of that.
Terrible.
Terrible. Hey, but we have Highway Through Hell.
Oh, there you go.
Jamie Davis talking about how dangerous the Coquihalla Highway is. I'm telling you, America, here's another spoof. It's not that dangerous.
No. There was my wife and I knew this gentleman. He was from Quebec, and he couldn't pronounce Coquihalla. He used to call it, "Hey, I'm going over the Coca-Cola Highway, eh?"
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I hear you. Mike Browne from Dark Poutine is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Getting back to Ogopogo, though, what do you think this creature is?
What I think it is it may be, it just may be a giant sturgeon. So
yes,
I don't know if it's if it is something like a sea serpent or something like that. That's really cool, but they haven't been able to find it. You know, it's like Loch Ness. They haven't been able to discover it. But just because you can't prove something's existence doesn't mean it doesn't. You know, the whole drill. But it may be a giant sturgeon, and some of those things live to be 150 years old and are, 30 feet long. It's crazy. Can you imagine a fish that big? And we're not talking a whale. We're talking just a fish. You can look up giant sturgeon on Google. If you Google that, you'll find some crazy pictures of guys, like 8 guys holding up one fish in the water.
Oh, yeah.
Just mind-boggling. And so that might be what people are seeing, but I would love it if it was something more spectacular. I mean, the indigenous folks were talking about it when the first settlers arrived. When was it? Oh, good Lord. I'll have to look at my notes. But it was a long time ago. Dead air is not a good thing. So 1872.
Yes.
The first white lady named Susan Allison saw this thing, and it was called Naha'itik, which is roughly translated now is Ogopogo. I guess they just made up the name Ogopogo because it came from some song in the 1920s that somebody said.
Really?
Yeah, somebody made up a song and said that this creature was called Ogopogo. So they just named it that because Naha'itik is really hard to say for people who don't speak the language.
Very much. Yeah. And you know what? You bring up a good point about the sturgeon in British Columbia, because the Okanagan Lake, actually, if you follow the river, that's where the Columbia River starts, which actually separates Washington State from Oregon. Mm-hmm. And Portland is right there, Vancouver, Washington on the north side. And there are some extremely large sturgeon in that area, and combined with the Fraser River in the British Columbia area, which runs for, I believe, 1,600 kilometers. Yeah. And, I remember one time, my friend, we were on a sturgeon fishing trip on the Fraser, and we actually hooked onto this fish. We never saw it. Mm. Okay, but what scared us was when the fish started towing our, we're using, I think, 200-pound test line, and the sturgeon starts taking our boat upriver. Mm. And then it must have swam underneath a log or something, because as it continued pulling a line out of the water, going upstream, the front of the boat got closer and closer to going under. This sturgeon was so big, it almost took us under.
That's crazy.
It was absolutely crazy. And eventually it got to the point where my friend, who was a skipper of the boat, he's like, we got to cut this line. Otherwise we're going to go under. We got to cut this line. So there are massive, massive fish hiding that we've never seen. Never seen.
Exactly. Some friends of mine are fishermen back in Nova Scotia, and there were often times that they would bring up things in their nets that nobody had ever seen. They were just, okay, here's a species of fish that nobody knows what it is. And they would just throw it back because it was garbage fish to them. They weren't scientists or anything like that. They're fishermen. They're out, fishing for cod or halibut or something like that. And they bring something bizarre up. It's just like, oh, well, we'll just throw it over. But many, many times I heard stories like that.
Yeah. It was, the Fraser River is scary. I've never fished on the Columbia, but I mean, when it comes to Okanagan Lake, I mean, you have a population there of probably 250,000 people in the vicinity. The lake is about 90 miles long, or pardon me, about 65 miles long, 90 kilometers long. And it is deep. It is dark. It has rattlesnake infestations on the islands around it, and yet it is a hotbed for people spending time on the lake. Are you surprised, as we got about 2 minutes to go here till the bottom of the hour, that there are not more sightings of this creature? I'm not surprised because, like you say, there's such a big area for it to cover. And I've got some more stuff that we'll talk about after the break in regard to this, but because it's too long to get into right now. But there is definitely something in that lake that's a little different. And people haven't been able to explain it confidently enough for me to buy it yet. I had this a couple of years ago. I forget the gentleman's name. I had this gentleman come on from Kelowna, British Columbia, talking about his investigation to the Ogopogo, and he was dead serious, okay, that the reason why we haven't found an Ogopogo is it has wings, and it flies from lake to lake whenever it wants. And that's the reason why we can't find it on sonar. We can't find it on radar or anything like that because it flies away and then goes away for months and then flies on back.
Wow.
What do you think about that?
I don't know how comfortable I am with that explanation.
Oh, come on. How could you not buy that story?
It's
How
like
can you not
like
buy that?
a thunderbird. It turns into a thunderbird in the winter and goes south.
It's a dragon, man. It's a dragon.
Oh, it could be like smog.
Very true. Very, very true. Yes, my friend, I'm going to get you to hold on right there because we are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. We're going to have some fun tonight, continue along with the mysteries of Okanagan Lake and the Ogopogo. Yeah. From darkpoutine.com, the Dark Poutine podcast, Mike Browne. He's got a great mustache, and I'll tell you, every hockey player would be jealous of that mustache. Go check it out. You can probably find a picture of him on Facebook or online somewhere. It's worth it. Very much worth it. More with Mike Browne from Dark Poutine on Spaced Out Radio coming up.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thor, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know little brother is watching.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Need that weekend's supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Tonight we are looking across Canada at some of the weird, strange stories that this completely boring nation that we live in, that we broadcast from. And I say that very sarcastically. Please take the Canadian humor into play there. And joining us from darkpoutine.com, the Dark Poutine podcast, is Mike Browne. And if you haven't checked out his podcast, do it. You will absolutely love it. Mike, welcome back.
Thank you. And I am glad.
Not a problem. Yeah, I cut you off there. I apologize, man.
That's okay. I'm good with that.
All right. Well, we have to do the Canadian thing and apologize.
Exactly. Sorry. Sorry.
You had some information, my friend, that you wanted to share about Okanagan Lake and the Ogopogo as we continue that conversation from the previous half hour.
Yeah. So one of the cool things about Ogopogo was the way that the indigenous people treated this thing. Before they would make any kind of journey across the lake, they would throw something in. They would take something along with them and just toss it into the lake as kind of a sacrifice to this sea monster that some of them had seen actually drag canoes underwater. So, for example, they used a chicken or a little pig, and they would drop it into the lake when they neared the middle. But one time, a young man, his name was Johnny, he was taking some tobacco that he'd grown across the lake to a friend, and he forgot to take his chicken with him, his sacrifice with him this time. And what happened when they got out to the middle of the lake, he had horses essentially swimming ahead of him to drag his canoe along so he could, pile the canoe onto the horses and take it further inland. But as they're going along, these horses there was like this frothing in the water, and the horses started to be pulled down. And as a result, because they're tied to the canoe, they start to pull the canoe down. So Johnny had to cut the rope with a knife and let the horses go. And apparently there was blood in the water and all this kind of thing. And nobody ever saw any more of these horses. So I'm kind of like, okay, is this a real story or is this somebody making something up? But as I was doing my research, this came up again and again and again, that for eons, the people who lived in this area would take a sacrifice out into the middle of the lake. And I don't know if he was just that story that people tell, if you don't take and give the sacrifice, that's what's going to happen. But there were other stories sort of similar. They found human bones on this one island that they said was supposed to be the home of this creature. Apparently it lived in a cave and would come out
Snake
at night.
Island.
Snake Island. Yeah. So, but yeah, they found bones and stuff there. So I don't know, a sturgeon, we've talked earlier, we thought it might be a sturgeon, but I don't know if a sturgeon really eats meat. I'm not sure if they're big meat eaters, especially an entire horse team.
What about, and I'm trying to look for logical answers here because, I believe in a lot of weird stuff, my friend. I do. I like to say I am the pilot of the woo train around here, or the conductor of the woo train. And Ogopogo is very tough for me to believe.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It just is. I tend to think it's a sturgeon on a personal level. I want it to be a monster. I do. But I want some, I want some blood. I want boats overturned and everything along those lines, I want this thing to go Jaws, go Okanagan Lake. I don't know why, but I want it to happen to make me believe. And, but what are the possibilities? Because the Columbia River, which attaches to Okanagan Lake, what's the chances that maybe it's an oarfish that comes out of the west coast of the ocean in the Pacific, or maybe it's some freshwater eel that has grown to a 12, 14, 20-foot size, which has been found in the ocean as well?
For sure. And somebody in the chat earlier mentioned that there are sand sharks in the rivers too. So it could be something like that.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, there was time at one point, a lot of people wondering if it was some sort of hybrid from the old, Greenland shark that grows to 20 to 30 feet long and has adapted to fresh water. I mean, there's a lot of possibilities out there of what this could be.
I've seen some large things. I'm from Nova Scotia originally, and I've seen some large things at sea. One time we were going along in my dad's boat. It's a 35-foot cabin cruiser, and he started to slow down, and he said, "Look to the port side of the boat." And so we looked to the left side of the boat, and he slowed down just enough that we were beside a basking shark. And if you know what a basking shark looks like, it's a large shark that opens its mouth and gathers, I believe it's like krill or something in the water anyway, that it filters through its mouth. But that thing was longer than our boat. It was crazy. And that was a fish. It was a basking shark. It was massive.
Well, they're the second largest shark species next to the whale shark.
Right.
And it's amazing that you actually saw one, because for a long time in the Strait of Juan de Fuca and the Georgia Strait on BC's coast, boats were actually, and ferries were actually told to run the basking sharks over because they thought they were man-eaters back in the day.
Oh, good Lord. No, they're a gentle giant, just like the whale shark, which is interesting. I've also seen a large green sea turtle behind the boat, which is pretty fantastic. It was playing in the wake, and that thing was 6 feet across the back, if not.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
My goodness. Well, that's a lot of fun, man. All right, let's shift from Okanagan Lake. Let's head east to Ontario, where you recently did a story about these buffoons who think it's really cool to jump in a barrel and go over the edge of Niagara Falls.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you know the first person who ever went over Niagara Falls in a barrel was a woman?
I recall that.
Yeah. And she was a 63-year-old retired dance teacher named Annie Edson Taylor. And nobody ever wanted to hire her to teach them dance anymore. She couldn't boogie around the dance floor like she used to be able to. So she thought, I need to make some money. She heard of people going over different smaller falls in barrels, and she asked a friend, had anybody ever done Niagara? And the friend looked at her like, are you crazy? No, nobody has ever done that. So she hired a local cooper to make her a barrel, and it was reinforced. She used a couple of pillows and some cushions for padding, and she flung herself into it, and over the falls, old Annie went.
Did she make it?
She did.
Wow.
She was a little worse for wear. Apparently, she needed some more padding. She was dizzy because her barrel had bounced around at the bottom of the torrent for a little while and underwater, and they thought she was gone. So she was under for about a minute until this barrel shot out and landed on the rocks. And when they pulled her out, she said, "Did I go over the falls?"
No kidding.
Oh, yeah. She had no clue because she couldn't see. She was just locked inside this barrel. And she said, what was the one thing that she said was, I thought the world was being annihilated.
Why do people put themselves in that predicament? Now, is that previous to them when they shut down the falls and they did a bunch of rock work on there, I believe, in the 50s or 40s or something like that diverted the river there, the Niagara River, I believe it's called?
1969, they diverted the falls, so it was completely dry. So there are photos of a completely dry Niagara Falls online if you want to look. But, this was in 1901 that she did this. So it was in the days before television. So there's no video of old Annie going over. She didn't end up making very much money and died pretty much destitute. But, she had the distinction of being the first one to go over the falls in a barrel and live.
Well, you know what? I mean, because you have to, like, the reason why I mentioned about the falls when they, in 1969, like you said, when they diverted the river and the water, there wasn't many rocks underneath the water, which made it easier for people to go over and actually survive. To do it today, it is, I mean, in a regular barrel like they were doing then, it would be impossible to survive it because of the rocks.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But there's nothing. Things are a little. I guess it would be safer to go over. I don't know. I don't want to give it a shot. But there was one gentleman who went over at one point, and his barrel. He made it over the falls. Apparently, he and his 150-year-old turtle, his pet turtle, went over the falls together in this barrel. I guess he needed company with him. He made it over the falls initially, but he was underwater for too long, and they couldn't retrieve the barrel for 18 hours, so he smothered to death. And the turtle lived. So there you go.
Did the turtle get a good home?
I don't know. I'm pretty certain it probably did. I'm fairly certain.
Well, that's good. That's good. Mike Browne from Dark Poutine is here tonight. DarkPoutine.com is his website for his fantastic podcast. When's the last time somebody tried to go over Niagara Falls in a barrel?
The last time in a barrel would have been, I'm just looking at my notes. It looks like a man named Steve Trotter went over in 1995. So it's not that long ago. I mean, there have been other interesting ones, like a man named Jesse Sharp went over in a whitewater canoe in 1990. That didn't turn out so well for Jesse. No. And another young man named Robert Overacker, who was trying to raise money for the homeless, went over Horseshoe Falls while riding a jet ski.
No.
Yeah, he had a parachute on his back. His idea was, I'm going to pull the parachute and I'll just drift off to safety. And essentially, his parachute didn't work, so Mr. O'Connor didn't make it either.
I mean, I hate to laugh, but
I
mean, it reminds me because recently the Flat Earth world lost Mike Hughes, who had his own home-built rocket that he wanted to launch up as high as he could, hoping to get a mile above, so that way he could see the curvature in the Earth.
Yep, okay. I mentioned Mad Mike in my recent episode about the Hollow Earth that I was talking to you about earlier.
Yeah, and he just didn't make it. He just didn't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, are they stupid or are they brave? And I mean that as a serious question.
I honestly, I don't think somebody who wants to put themselves in that kind of danger doesn't have all their marbles, really. They can't have. They really can't. We could call them brave, but there are probably other ways to show your courage that won't get you killed.
I mean, I just look at it like whatever happened to just, staging a peaceful donation drive on top of the supermarket. What happened to those days? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like Renee Castellani, the guy from 980 CKNW, who did his broadcast atop the Bowman or the Bomac sign here in Vancouver. Do you remember that sign?
I do remember that. Remember that.
And you know what he was doing at the time? He was poisoning his wife with arsenic-filled milkshakes at the time that he was. So every night he would deliver an arsenic-filled milkshake to his wife, and she died.
No.
Yeah.
No. Oh, you got to tell us this. This is a mystery I did not know of radio lore.
Oh, really? Well, my friend Eve Lazarus wrote a fantastic book called Death by Milkshake on this story. And so this guy, essentially, he was having a little affair with somebody who was working with him in the office at CKNW, and he was the promotions guy. I mean, you remember Renee Castellani, you might remember him. He did a lot of crazy things. Like he claimed that he was an quote-unquote Arab who was buying all of Vancouver, all of British Columbia, because he had all this oil money, and people were up in arms, and it was all a big hoax. But when Jimmy Pattison, who's one of our billionaires here, was just the general manager of the car lot there, he got Mr. Castellani to come sit on top of this Bomac sign until all the cars in the lot were sold. And it only took like 3 or 4 days, because people would just come over and want to have a look at a car and just buy it just to be part of this whole thing.
So apparently he didn't like his wife and was sending arsenic milkshakes over to her.
Yep. So he was bringing arsenic-filled milkshakes from White Spot, a local restaurant here. You can go.
The Toygos must not have been happy with that.
No, I don't think so. You can go to the Vancouver Police Museum and you can see one of the milkshake containers that Renee Castellani used to poison his wife.
Okay, so with that, how long did he go before they actually figured out what was going on, before they busted him?
Well, she died. Number one, she died, and then he got away with it for quite some time, but some people thought that things were a little fishy around the way he was acting, and it came out that he was having this affair. So they disinterred her, they exhumed her, and tested her blood, and tested her body, and they found more arsenic in her body than it would take to kill a few elephants. So he was charged and convicted of murder and went away for a time. But when he came out, he went on his business just like nothing had ever happened, and went back to work in radio. He worked on the island for a while after that, and died of cancer a few years after he was released from prison. So, interesting cat.
Wow. Well, with that, how did they figure out that if he was up there on that sign, how did they figure out that it was he who was putting the arsenic in, or did he have someone doing it for him?
No, he was doing it. It's so it's kind of, I don't know if he was delivering them to her while he was on the sign, but it was during that time. So she was already being in the process of being poisoned. And if you know how arsenic works, it builds up over time and it doesn't dissipate. So essentially, over time, you will just die from arsenic poisoning. So probably the 3 days he was on the sign, he wasn't poisoning her because there was no way for him to do it. But as soon as he was off the sign, he was visiting her again, and she was in the hospital by this time with another poisoned milkshake. And even on the day she died, he brought her a poisoned milkshake, and he enters the hospital with one of his milkshakes, finds the doctor tells him, your wife has passed away. And rather than become very upset, he just went to the bathroom, dumped the milkshake into the toilet, and flushed it. So.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy. Oh, yeah. Give him a hug next time. We've got about 3 minutes here until we go to break at the top of the hour. We are talking with Mike Browne from the Canadian Dark Poutine podcast here, darkpoutine.com. You know, when you get cases like that, and it always, and I know you're kind of sensitive right now because what we're all going through, and, you know, do you talk true crime or not? But I think tonight we can get into that just a little bit here in regards to it. Do you feel that, you know, for such a small nation, small population that Canada has, that we have an abnormal amount of serial killers here?
I think we have the same number of serial killers that they have anywhere else. I think just our technology is a little better than some places, so that's why we find them. If you think about it, there are countries whose forensic practices aren't quite as excellent as ours and our neighbors to the south, so that's why it seems like our countries have more, but there are definitely other countries with plenty. So we just have the normal amount, which is too many, frankly.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. And, you know, I don't really want to get into a couple of them because I don't like involving children. You know, when you think of, who's the jerk died of cancer?
Clifford Olson.
Clifford Olson. I mean, that was one. I grew up in that era, man. I grew up in that era when all of a sudden it was ugly. It was absolutely ugly, man. Like I was 7, 8 years old, and you're hearing the stories on the news each and every night, and it's scary.
Yeah, I wrote actually a story for a book last year that was released last year called "The Best New True Crime Stories: Serial Killers" by Mitzi Zaretto, and Clifford Olson was the person that I wrote about. So.
You know what? Actually, let us touch on that. You know, because we're not taking advantage of the horrid victims and the children. But you know, I mean, this guy was, as we got about a minute to go here, this guy was so psychotic, that he was literally, until the day he died, sending letters to the victims' families. Could you want to go into that for about 45 seconds?
Yeah, what he was doing is he would find the addresses of the parents of the victims, who were all children, and he would send them Christmas cards. And in the Christmas cards or Easter card or whatever, he would include a detailed description of what he had done to their child.
See, this, and you know, like Clifford Olson, for people who don't know or are not familiar with it, because of his heinous crimes against, I think he killed 14 children.
11.
And there's still 11, and there's still a possibility that he killed more.
Yeah.
That he never admitted to. But there was actually a talk because of him of bringing capital punishment back to Canada because of his sickening crimes. And we could go over that. We've only got about 10 seconds here. Let's continue this conversation when we get back. We are talking with Mike Browne. If you have not heard his podcast, it's called Dark Poutine. Yes, very Canadian name for a very Canadian show. And he's got some weird, strange stories. We're going to continue along those lines all night tonight with Mike. Darkpoutine.com is his website. Yeah, we're going to have some fun. Continuing on in Hour 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Stay tuned.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother Is Watching.
Are you an experiencer of something strange that can't be explained? Do you want help finding out what's going on? I'm Ryan Stacy, head of the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We've teamed up with Spaced Out Radio to investigate cases filled out in the SOR Sightlines report. We are independent and there's no cost to what we do. All we need is your experience. Let's find out what's happening together on the SOR Sightlines report.
Hey, Space Travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at MightyMooseBeard.com today.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio is underway tonight. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning on in wherever you may be. I am your host, Dave Scott. My hair is looking fantastic for all of you, even though you can't see it unless you're checking out the YouTube page. We welcome everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across the continent. On the digital side, we're on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Good to have you with us. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Madiscent. Madiscent is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and doing a little shopping and reading a Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. And don't forget, follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. We are talking with Mike Browne tonight. He has one of the most popular podcasts across Canada called Dark Poutine. DarkPoutine.com is his website. Mike, welcome back.
Hello.
Right before the break, we started getting into the whole Clifford Olson and the sadistic side of this serial killer who, in the 70s and early 80s, killed 11 children that we know of.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, growing up at that time in the Lower Mainland, it was scary because, you know, there was all these vehicles you had to watch out for. You weren't safe at school. I mean, this is where, you know, it didn't matter if you were in kindergarten or in high school. You were walking to school, you know, with your buddies or alone because it was just that time.
And Olson was hard to catch, too, because he was not hunting in one particular hunting ground all the time. And his victims were not the usual... like Ted Bundy had an affinity for college-age girls with long brown hair parted in the middle. Clifford Olson just wanted to kill and have sex with kids. So it didn't matter what age they were. He ranged from, I believe, the youngest was a 9-year-old boy, and the oldest was an 18-year-old woman. So he had real proclivities for just anybody who was young and silly enough to get into his car. He would love to just do bad things to them.
Yeah, and it was sadistic. We don't need to go into full detail about that. But how was this idiot caught? Because, you know, I remember the days, I mean, there was a real sigh of relief, but the innocence of that entire Vancouver and British Columbia area was kind of over because of him.
Yeah, so he was caught when all of the jurisdictions where he had been doing things got together and had a chat. So one day in Burnaby, cops from as far away as Squamish in one direction and Chilliwack in the other direction all got together in Burnaby to try and figure out whether or not there was actually a serial killer running around in the Lower Mainland. Because they didn't have such a thing as VICAP that they have now, which is the current criminal database that the RCMP uses to track these guys. So they don't know what's happening. Cops in Burnaby don't know what's happening in Squamish, or they don't know what's happening in Chilliwack. So they all get together. And interestingly, this guy had been under suspicion for child sexual assault in Squamish, child sexual assault in Coquitlam, and in Surrey. Like, all these different sort of little pieces fell into place when they all got into the same room and had a conversation. And from that point on, he became suspect number one, and they were following him around. But he was so slippery, and even unintentionally so. He would drive he'd pick up a kid in one car, go and rent another one, and drive off and go kill this child in a rented car. And he was able to slip the police. They said he was so erratic the way he drove. He would pull U-turns and all kinds of crazy stuff just randomly. And they said they didn't feel like he was they said it wasn't clear to them whether or not he knew that they were there, but they just couldn't keep up with him. Finally, he was caught on Vancouver Island. He had two girls with him. The police were following him, these two girls he picked up hitchhiking, and he took them into like a rest stop on the island, and they were terrified that he was going to do something to them at the time. He was just going for a pee, but they swarmed in and felt they had enough to arrest him at the time. And in his possession was a book with like a date book with names written in it. And one of the names that was written in it was one of his murder victims. And that was one of the pieces of evidence that got him busted.
Yeah, it was so nice. You know what? I remember up until that point in British Columbia history that my parents never locked the doors.
Mm-hmm.
There was no need. There was no need to lock the doors up until this animal was running around. And then all of a sudden, I remember Mom and Dad locking the doors. Couldn't understand why. And all the windows at night. Because back then, nobody had air conditioning.
No.
Not in the Lower Mainland. Nobody had air conditioning. And so you'd leave your windows open at night, to air everything out. Now, totally different. Completely different.
You don't want to let somebody in.
No, definitely not. Recently, you did a weird story about Hollow Earth.
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Now, how does a guy who specializes in true crime and telling all of these stories from across Canada's history all of a sudden fall down the rabbit hole and right into the woo barrel with Hollow Earth?
Well, I love this stuff, too. I say that Dark Poutine is true crime and dark history. And we'll do what's called an away game every now and again, just to take us sort of off the beaten path and towards something a little different. We've done, say, the Hollywood shootout. Remember that? When all that went down, those two guys with the AK-47s who shot up a whole bunch of cops outside a bank in Hollywood.
Yes.
So we covered that. That's not a Canadian crime, but it was just something I was interested in. And so I've always kind of had an interest in Hollow Earth. And it was just sort of a passing interest until I started researching it. And then I thought, I need to do a show on this because it is bonkers. These people are crazy. They really are. It's just like the flat earth folks. And I'm sorry if there's flat earthers who are listening, but I really, really don't believe that the earth is flat. I'm going to take Chris Hadfield's accounting for that. He is not
true enough. True enough. We have one, Ron from Saskatchewan, but he's not in Saskatchewan anymore. He's in Nova Scotia. But when he was in Saskatchewan, we would just make sure that everybody waved at him just to make sure that he could see them all.
Well, if you live in Saskatchewan, I could see how you would think that the Earth was flat.
Very true. Very, very true. And, Ron's the kind of guy who'd wear watermelons on his head during football season. So that kind of tells you a little bit about him, But you have to know the Canadian Football League to understand it. Yes, it is football, and it only takes 3 downs to go 10 yards, not 4. Oh, yes. Stir it up a little bit. Stir it up.
I'm not a football fan, so I'm
for sure.
I like me some hockey.
Me too. Well, you got the mustache for it. So what did you learn about Hollow Earth?
Well, what I learned about Hollow Earth is that it's been around, the idea of something underneath the Earth, under the Earth's crust, cities of aliens and people who live underneath the Earth, and they're advanced civilizations apparently that decided to move underground after a large war, and it was probably something nuclear. They moved underground from places like all the places that are deserts. So the Sahara Desert, the Gobi Desert, places like that are the places that apparently used to be lush, but were turned to desert because of this super weapon that they were using at the time. And these people went underground. And now they've decided, hey, you know what? We're just going to hang out here because the rest of the planet is kind of on the wrong track. And they're just going to kind of hang out and see what we're doing. Some say that the grays that we see and UFO sightings are actually these people coming up from under the ground. They're not actually aliens at all. They are just super advanced civilizations that have been living in the Earth for eons.
So besides the grays, what other creatures are said to be living down there?
Well, I've heard things like that there are still dinosaurs that live there. One, Admiral Byrd. Have you ever heard of this guy? He was quite a famous.
Richard Byrd.
Yeah, but he claimed that he did a flight to the poles and found that there was a hole in the poles, and was able to fly down inside. Saw crazy amounts of animals and all kinds of things, and lush jungles and stuff like that. The temperature went up to 74 degrees Fahrenheit, and this is in the north, like the North Pole. It was up to 74 degrees Fahrenheit, and his machine stopped responding, and these flying machines, which he called Flugelrads, overtook his plane and captured him in some kind of tractor beam and took him to a crystal city where he was sent back with a message for us, which was pretty interesting.
So when you were doing this show and you were learning about the Hollow Earth, what did you learn from it? Like, what caught you off guard?
All of it. The whole thing. It's just this fantastic idea that something might be inside the Earth, that we might have it all wrong. There are even mathematicians in the 18th century who tried to explain why the Earth's poles are switching and moving sometimes, and not necessarily north is not necessarily true north all the time. Apparently it moves around. I don't know. I'm not a geologist. I don't understand any of it, but it's just fascinating. The underworld is this subterranean region that runs beneath the whole of the dreamlands. I can't write that stuff. It's fantastic.
And where are we supposed to enter into this place?
Apparently through the holes in the poles. Yeah, so there's very wide gaps in the poles, and the people who claim they have been to the North Pole have not actually been there. They have been to what is a false pole.
Oh, so now we got false poles.
Well, of course. Of course we have.
I'm still buying the fact that we're shaped like a donut. Flat
Right?
on top, big hole in the middle. You know, how does the water stay on? That's what I want to know.
You're making me hungry.
How does the water? I know. I do have some Timbits here. I do. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not sharing them. I am not sharing them. But when you go down this type of path, like with Hollow Earth, all right, there's a lot of sci-fi and fiction involved in something like this because, you know, there's been enough exploration both in space and on this planet to prove that, I at least in my theory, that it doesn't work. But what is interesting is the amount of creatures that people keep seeing, you know, from the aliens. I didn't know about the dinosaurs that you mentioned, but, you know, you think of gnomes and gargoyles and all of these fairy-type creatures that seem to be living in this area.
Yeah. Well, this apparently the people that Bird saw, this Admiral Byrd saw, were blonde-haired, blue-eyed, kind of like a race of Nazis, essentially. Which is
gosh,
yeah, it's just kind of weird. So I don't know. Maybe that's where Hitler really absconded to, and those weren't his bones that were in the Russian hands. Who knows? I mean, those guys love the misinformation. So, you know, maybe there's little Hitler babies in the Hollow Earth somewhere.
They're all running around with those brutal mustaches. That's what they're doing. Yeah, go figure. Figure.
I like that Charlie Chaplin took that back from him. Made Hitler really mad too.
I want to go back to the West Coast here. I know we're jumping around, but you know we got so much that we got to fill in the next hour and a bit here that we have you. I don't know if you read David Paulides' Missing 411 Canada book that came out in December, right before Christmas.
No, I haven't read it.
But we had David on this show, and he was saying that the number 2 place for missing people in strange circumstances in North America is the Cascade Mountains just north of Vancouver.
That's fascinating.
And that is number 2 to Yellowstone National Park in the United States.
Wow. So I wonder what it is. What does he think it is? I know he's pointed out that there's a system of caves, is it not? I'm just talking off the top of my head.
It's the terrain. It's the fact that people just vanish. I mean, you know, you look at the ski mountains every year. How many people just disappear off of them? They go skiing on certain tracks that they're not supposed to, and they go into the backwoods and go carve their own trails. And next thing you know, they're gone. You know, the ski trails just end, and these people have vanished. Lynn Creek in North Vancouver is a hotbed, all the way through to Golden Ears Mountain and Maple Ridge.
I used to hike there every day. I worked very close to Lynn Creek, and I would hike there. And I can verify there is some weirdness in those woods. You can just feel it. If you walk deep enough into those woods up the creek, it is very, very weird.
Well, what do you think is going on there that is causing people to just vanish?
That's a great question. I mean, BC is really large, so it could be they just are wandering off and getting lost. But oftentimes, I mean, now, especially with cell phones, you'd be able to probably find somebody. You'd have to walk quite a distance away from civilization before you're not able to make a call anymore. So, especially in those locations. But maybe something is taking them. Maybe it's, as you mentioned before, with the floating feet, maybe it's a serial killer. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's something more paranormal. Could be, I mean, I hate to say the word, but Sasquatch might be one of those things, you know?
Well, it could be, and I think that all falls into his theories. But, you know, there is something to do with water. You have the oceans right there, plus the fresh water coming off the mountains. You have a lot of rain, which is another one of his theories, that rain seems to play a major role, and storms seem to play a major role about everything. And, you know, you have a bunch of wilderness where there is, you know, there's only one entrance in and one entrance out. And if you decide that you want to try and go another way, you're pretty much screwed.
Yeah, and there's a lot of places here in British Columbia that are still wild. Like, people have not set foot there. So who knows what's there? Like, I mean, we have no idea. It could be any number of things. There could be lots of wild and wonderful things. If you Google, I think it's called Map Fight, and look at British Columbia and put pretty much any other province into British Columbia, it's a big place. And there is so much wilderness here. There's any number of crazy things that could be in those woods, including bears, frankly. Like, there's a lot of grizzlies as well, and cougars.
So do you think, though, that there is something supernatural happening in the forest, because that area is very filled and steeped with legend from First Nations?
That could be. It definitely could be. I haven't read any legends on this particular thing, but I'm really interested to learn more now. Actually, you've piqued my interest.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'm telling you, it's aliens. It's aliens. Yeah. Because and I say that jokingly. Okay, I do. I say that jokingly. However, between the Squamish area of Vancouver Island, straight through to the Fraser Canyon, there is a plethora of UFO sightings each year. It's one of the top UFO eyewitnessed places in Canada.
Oh, crazy. I had not heard that either.
Oh, we got to get your woo factor up a little bit. Come hang out with us a little bit more.
I think I want to. I think I do want to do some interesting, like you mentioned some things while we were off the air that I'm really thinking that we should get together and do. So.
Oh yeah. So let's go to another. We'll continue on this for just a little bit here, because we only have about 90 seconds to go before we go to break. At the bottom of the hour, Mike Browne from Dark Poutine Podcast is our guest tonight. Sticking with the Vancouver area, I mean, considering that it is a hybrid city of a beautiful multiculturalism and just different sets of people who are exploring new areas, do you think that it's the amateur... I'm trying to figure out a way to say this, that they're not so experienced to be around the water or those type of mountains, and that's maybe a natural reason why many people are going missing?
Like the Darwin effect, you mean?
Yes. Darwin is a good way to put it.
Not being so sensitive about it, but they're not prepared to enter the wilderness that they are. I think that is definitely a factor.
And what leads you to that?
Oh, I mean, I'm a pretty skilled woodsman myself. I was a chief scout, sent off on my own hike, and I had nothing but a compass and my backpack and a tent and some food, and I had to hit certain places. And I can tell you, it's not easy, even for somebody who's practiced at it. So somebody who's not prepared to be in the woods, I've seen, girls stomping through a Lynn forest in high heels. It's like, you are not in the right place. You're going to break your ankle and lay off to the side of the trail. If you go too far in, nobody's going to find you, and you're just going to lay there. You won't be
very true.
Oh, yeah.
Very true. I remember thinking about whether or not I was going to do the grouse grind one day, sitting at the bottom and watching a bunch of ladies walking up the hill in skirts and high heels.
Yep.
For the climb up the mountain, and I thought, well, maybe it's time to go home. So I did.
There you go.
Dark Poutines. Mike Browne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We continue right after this.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
we're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
From the heartlands of Canada to beards around the world, we know how to take care of you. Fill your follicles with the Mighty Moose Beard Oil. All our oils and balms are handmade and 100% natural ingredients because we care about your beard. And hey, use the promo code SOR2019 and get your Mighty Moose Beard Oil today. You can check us out on our website, mightymoosebeard.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
We're taking Sunday nights out of this world on Spaced Out Radio. This is Michael W. Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go on an exciting journey into the unknown. I'm going to bring you some of the best interviews in the paranormal and supernatural to start your new week off on a freaky note. So tune in to Spaced Out Sundays with me, Michael W. Hall, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Great to have each and every one of you with us. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do us the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and much more. Don't forget, you can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. For the show, my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. We'd love to follow back. Anyways, we are talking with one of Canada's top podcasters, a gentleman named Mike Browne. His podcast is called Dark Poutine. Now, if you haven't tried poutine, you're missing out. I'm just going to tell you that right now. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's
Good
made
old poutine.
It's made me as round as I am tall, so.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. Between that and the Nanaimo bars, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mention a lot of food on the show, and then I'm hungry afterwards, so I just go eat. Yep.
I know. I had to laugh. I went and ate the leftovers last night.
Oh.
Speaking of food. And, it was the leftovers where you probably should have fed it to the dogs, but you ate it because you don't want to waste the food. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Yeah, I had one of those nights, where, it was just terrible. Terrible. I shouldn't do that to myself. Shouldn't do that to myself.
Did you have strange, lucid dreams where you left your body at night? Or
Unfortunately, no. No alien encounters or anything like that. But it was just the way it is. Hey, I want to get into one of the strange cases that people in our chat rooms are kind of lighting up about. And this one, I'm going to call this one, and maybe there will be people out there who do not agree with me, but I think this was one of the low points of the Canadian justice system. Back on July 30th, 2008, a young man named Tim McLean was an innocent bystander riding a Greyhound bus, in Manitoba, when all of a sudden a gentleman named Vincent Wei-Guang Lee just snapped, and ended up cutting the young man's head off.
Yeah.
What happened here?
Well, apparently this man, Vince Lee was his name, and was hearing voices for quite some time. He was an unmedicated person with paranoid schizophrenia, and he had bought himself a knife to take on this bus trip, and he claimed he had no plans to do anything nefarious with it, but I don't think you buy this kind of it's like a hunting knife, and you don't take that on the bus with you unless you think that something's going to go on. But Tim McLean was just some dude who was he was a carnival worker. He was traveling home to Manitoba on the Greyhound bus number 1170, and Vince Lee had heard this voice in his head that told him, "You need to murder this young man." So, as other bus passengers watched, horrified, Vince Lee began stabbing this young guy. The bus was stopped eventually, and everybody other than Vince and this young man, Tim McLean, were left on the bus. And the bus driver shut the door, so Vince Lee would not be able to get out because he was clearly in this crazy rage. But when the RCMP came, they left. They let this go on. They didn't intervene. This man desecrated this young man's body. He was eating, apparently he ate his eyes and parts of his heart, which is horrifying. I can't imagine. And he was holding up this young man's eyeless head for people to see outside the bus. You know, you're just traumatized for the rest of your life because you've had to look at something like that. And I don't understand why the police didn't move everybody away, like get everybody out of the area, because they shouldn't be seeing that anyway. And number two, why didn't they intervene? They have tasers, they have non-lethal means of intervening. They just let the guy tire himself out. It's bonkers.
I mean, at that point, okay, and I'm not a proponent for shooting people. I mean, there's always death by suicide or death by cop suicides that we see. But at this point, when somebody has cut an innocent victim's head off, it's time to pull the handgun out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though. I don't know if it would have been a justified shooting at that point unless this gentleman came toward the police, because this young man, obviously, if he's been decapitated, he's already gone. There's no saving him. And I think that was what the mindset of the police was, is like, okay, what we're just containing this situation, but it didn't really look good on them the way it went down.
Now, this person, Vince Lee, he didn't injure anybody else on the bus, did he?
No, nobody at all. It was he focused all of his attention on this young man.
The part that bothers me about this story, never mind what he did, because that's heinous in my opinion. And like I said, I'm not a proponent of the death penalty or anything like that, but there are certain cases where I think people just got to go bye-bye. Okay? They just do. And I look at this case as one of them. And I think we as Canadians, we have a very compassionate, and I'm thankful for this at times, we have a very compassionate, sometimes too compassionate, judicial system where people are able to get away with murder. In this case, he got a very, very light sentence, extremely light for the cause of the crime. Explain that.
Well, it wasn't even a sentence. If you're found not criminally responsible in Canada, essentially all that has to happen to you is you go to the hospital and you're medicated against your will until the doctors and the board, the medical board, feel that it's okay to release you. You are now better. And they as you've been deemed NCR, they believe if you are now medicated, you will not commit those crimes anymore. So they just let you free. Like there's no parole, there's nothing. You're just 100% released once they deem you to be okay. And that typically the cycle is between 5 and 7 years, they say. But people have gotten out earlier for doing really heinous things.
I mean, the question is, what happens if he decides to go off his meds again? He can snap. I mean, now you have a danger in society that does not need to be there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know he's changed his name to protect himself from society. However, now nobody knows who he is. So, I mean, his appearance has probably changed. He might have gained weight or lost weight. He may be wearing a mustache or a beard, but nobody knows who this guy is because here in Canada, once you are deemed not a danger anymore, that's it. He doesn't have to check in with anybody. He doesn't have to take his medication if he doesn't want to. which to me is something is broken if there's nobody monitoring that, especially after what he had done. When he goes, if you have his past behavior indicates future behavior, in my opinion.
Agreed.
So if he goes off his medication again, that past behavior may manifest itself in another murder. And I'm sure that's where you are going with that as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's just, I don't know. I think it's an absolute slap to every citizen in this country. It really is. And anybody who wants a just justice system. It really is. But, I mean, that's political grandstanding at this point, and probably not something that we should be doing on this show. But, hey, no. We went down that road.
Just
all right. Yeah. Here's an interesting one that you did. Going back to 1926-27.
Oh, God.
Where a gentleman named Earl Leonard Nelson, known as the Dark Strangler, was literally going after people across in nine U.S. states and one Canadian province. Tell us who Earl Leonard Nelson was.
Well, yeah, the Gorilla Strangler was an interesting character. He was another person who maybe today he would have been found not guilty due to, not criminally responsible due to his mental illness. But I don't know. He would dress himself up very nicely as a Bible salesman. And he would knock on the doors of unsuspecting housewives while their husbands were out at work. Or, most of them were actually ladies who had rooms to rent. So he would walk up and say, "Hi, I'm a Bible salesman. I would love to rent your room while I am out peddling my Bibles in said city." And when he felt it was time and they were alone, he would do them in. And typically, he did them in within the first few hours of being there. So he would go in, they'd be showing him a room, and he would just rape them and kill them in one of these rooms. He was a monster. And if you look at this guy's hands, there's pictures of him online, his hands are massive. They look like a basketball player's hands. And apparently he was quite a small in stature guy, but his hands look like they would literally wrap around your neck twice. Just crazy.
Wow. Unbelievable. When it comes to somebody like that, how was he caught?
How was the Gorilla Strangler caught? Well, yeah. I mean, these guys will tend to get kind of messy in what they do, but he crossed into the Canadian territory across the U.S. They were starting to figure out, okay, it must be this guy. So I believe he was in the U.S. when they figured out who it was that was doing these things, because he kind of left a trail behind him of things that they could pick up on. I can't remember right off the top of my head what the evidence was, but they knew who he was. And it took Canadian mounted police whose, our wonderful motto is, we always get our man. So apparently that was where that motto came from, because they definitely got that guy.
We're going to shift gears big time from murderous to nuclear weapons. Oh. I had no clue that there is a bomb sitting somewhere in BC, either in the ocean or in the wilds of British Columbia.
Yep.
That is a nuclear weapon, the same one that was, or the one very similar to what was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan.
Yeah, so that was the episode we did called Broken Arrow. And essentially what happened there was they were doing a bombing run up and down the West Coast. So they would practice on places like San Francisco, would play Tokyo, say, and they would practice bomb these places. And so they thought that, okay, we're going to do a practice run from the Arctic up in Alaska all the way down to San Francisco. because that's essentially the same flight time that it would take to get to Japan, where they would want to bomb, kind of thing. So as they were flying, apparently things went wrong on the flight, and these folks had to, before bailing out of the plane, setting it on autopilot and bailing out of the plane, they had to drop their nuclear weapon, which was, I think it was a little boy bomb. So they dropped it over the water. So apparently somewhere in the water off Vancouver Island lies a nuclear weapon that is unexploded.
Was the plane ever found?
Yes. So they sent the plane, they put it on autopilot, and were hoping it would just crash into the ocean. But for some reason, it turned inward and was found crashed into a mountain further inland.
Whereabouts in British Columbia was this found?
I'm just looking at it. It's one of those things that I haven't looked at for a while. So, but it was further inland. It was up. I believe it was off the Juan de Fuca Strait there. So, but yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Imagine if that all of a sudden goes off.
Or say somebody discovers it and decides that, oh, maybe I'll sell this thing on the black market.
No kidding.
Sell it on the dark web. So if you're browsing around with your Tor browser and you see little boy bomb for sale, we're all in trouble.
Oh, yes, absolutely. We got about 6 minutes to go here before we have to go to break at the top of the hour. Mike Browne from Dark Poutine Podcast is here tonight. I got to ask you, and I don't know how familiar you are with this, because I know you love the UFO field, but you're not deep into it, much like we are here. No. Although we're going to push you into that territory. We really are. We got it. What is your opinion in 2018 and then again in 2019, where the Canadian Mint first in 2018 puts out a special coin, collector's $20 coin, about the Falcon Lake incident and Stefan Michalek, that's shaped like many people think looks like a guitar pick, but it's actually the shape of an alien head. And then the following year, do another coin on the Shag Harbor incident, and all the while the Canadian Mint is stating, well, this is part of Canada's heritage. When did UFO incidents become part of Canada's heritage?
Well, if you really look on the Canadian archives sites, you will be able to find all the investigation materials that they claim they had regarding those two specific incidents. And Michalek's encounter is supposedly one of the most investigated in Canadian history. And there is a lot of documentation from the RCMP who spoke to him that day, photographs, all those kind of things of this strange burns on his stomach and all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you've talked about this on the show, so I'm probably covering ground you've already covered, but it's pretty fascinating. And I'm cool with that, actually, with the Canadian Mint to say, hey, you know what? These are things that happened in our culture that in time they were investigated by government agencies, so why not have a stamp about them, People claim that it was a real thing. I don't know if Michalek had any other ideas of selling things or anything like that, but who knows? Maybe he was telling the truth. There was some odd stuff going on there.
I just don't see it as part of the way the Canadian Mint announced it, that it was part of our heritage. When I think of Canada, I think of hockey. I think of donut Timbits. I think of maple syrup. I think of moose. I think of, all the great musicians and comedians that we have shared with the world. I think of everything else. I don't think of UFOs as part of the heritage. And I just, to me, knowing that every coin has to be approved by the Ministry of Finance, and knowing that there is still a lot of black tape covering up a lot of names and a lot of information on these two cases, I don't really see them as being part of any sort of heritage in Canada.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I kind of like it, though. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Neither do I.
I don't feel
neither
they're
do I
either.
No.
Yeah, but
I agree. But I'm just wondering that, if I put the tinfoil hat on, and I'm curious your opinion, do you think there's maybe an underlying message? Because this all seemed to happen while the UFO flap was really starting to heat up in the United States.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that is probably something that has to do with it. Maybe Canada is sending a message. This is our way of letting Canadians know that maybe something else really is out there and that the government is aware of it.
Well, let's change that into a different part of it then. Why do you think that so many Canadian people do not take the stories of UFOs very seriously?
That's a great question, too. I think a lot of it is now that cell phones are so ubiquitous, like a smartphone with really good cameras. I know I have an iPhone 11 Pro that takes fantastic pictures. And people say things like, well, if UFOs are a real thing, why aren't we seeing more pictures of them? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question, but I think that is what the naysayers are gonna say is their idea. Like there should be more photos of them out there.
But do you think that, as we've got about a minute and a half to go here, do you think that this is a subject that is broached very seriously on this side of the border as it is to our brothers and sisters of the South?
No, not at all. I think Canadians seem to be less interested in general. And I don't know why that is. I mean, we've had some interesting encounters here. One of my dad's friends actually did see something around the time of the Shag Harbor incident in Nova Scotia, and he said he saw a large red glowing ball following him as he drove down the river to his home. In Nova Scotia, we have what's called the La Have River, and it leads out into the ocean. It opens up into the ocean, but he was driving to his home, and it's a dark road, but it's right on the river. And he said something was flying over the river. He could see it reflected in the river, but this red sort of ball, he described it like a football shape or a pill shape. And it followed him down the river, and he said he heard this strange humming sound, and it was there for about 20 seconds before it just vanished, like split, took off as fast as, anything that he'd ever seen. Very strange. So there are lots of encounters that people have, but I just don't. I think maybe Canadians are afraid to talk about it. I don't know.
Well, let's continue along that line when we come back here on Spaced Out Radio. Dark Poutine host Mike Browne is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio, and we're going to continue with the UFO talk and what's going on here north of the 49th parallel, because that's kind of what we do around here. We're going to turn the woo up in hour 3. We got Mike for another half an hour on the show. Check out his website, darkpoutine.com. Then we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day to bring things home. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up after this.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines Report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines Report on the Spaced Out Radio website and let's figure out what's going on together.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do? What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at Kajans.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month. And follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
Hey, space travelers, this is John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. If you know anything about our website, you know we like to do things a little differently. We're not some faceless organization collecting money for a nebulous cause. Our donor dollars go directly toward life-improving items. Then we give those items directly to an underdog who needs it most. To become a donor with Spaced Out Radio's official charity, Chive Charities, just go to chivecharities.org/donate.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Looking for creative ways to get your company out in the public? How about advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Our sales department is waiting to hear from you, and we can work around any budget. From commercial spots to banners to special promotions, there are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hey everyone, I'm John Edwards.
And I'm Stacey Edwards. Together we're taking over Saturday nights on Spaced Out Radio, where we're going to bring our own experiences of the paranormal and talk to the best people we can find to help bring you answers to your strange tales.
We're here to entertain your need for weekend woo! So tune us in at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, where we can all get a little spooky together.
Spaced Out Saturday nights right here at spacedoutradio.com.
We are scouring the world for the most intriguing stories of your day. Take the time to read up on the SOR Newswire, where our team, led by Captain Shirk, will deliver to you some of the best paranormal and supernatural news, along with some stories that will blow your mind from the weird to the wacky. It's the news outside the news that piques interest, and that's what we're looking to deliver to you. The SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
We're underway in hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott, hanging out with all of you. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates, as well as on the digital side on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Madison is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and rocking out to our music man, Bumblefoot, and so much more. Don't forget, follow us on Twitter for the show at Spaced Out Radio, along with my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. For the final time tonight, we introduce a great podcaster out of Vancouver, British Columbia, named Mike Browne. He's got this podcast called Dark Poutine. If you want to check it out, it's darkpoutine.com. They're on Spotify. They're on Google Play, Apple, iTunes. They are everywhere, and they are one of the top-rated podcasts in Canada. And, Mike, we welcome you back here as we are going to go back into the UFO talk. And there was a question in one of the chat rooms about UFO disclosure. What do you think about that when it comes on a Canadian term?
I think UFO disclosure, as far as the government disclosing what's happening, I think they're all taking the same kind of tack. I think we're not going to hear before the U.S. is ready to release what they know, and I think they know quite a bit, to tell you the truth. Everybody's seen the video of the naval pilot with the unexplained UFO that he was following with his targeting mechanism. Like, what the heck was that? And the Navy said, yeah, that shouldn't have been released, but why shouldn't it be released? Why shouldn't we know these things? Why are they keeping these from us? Why don't they just come out and say, yep, here's everything that we know. Here's everything that we've investigated. Are they scared, or is there something else that perhaps they're hiding? I can't figure it out. I'm trying to understand why there's all this misinformation around UFOs. And because one person will say something, and here's the physicist who worked at Area 51 who claims, oh, yeah, we used to do all this stuff. And then everybody says, oh, poo-poo's him. And the dude used to work there. Like, why would he be saying that stuff otherwise? I don't know. What's going on? Why are they hiding it from us? Are they babysitting us? I don't know.
I don't know either. And I think it's probably pressure, in my opinion, from the United States government because the two countries are so closely tied through NORAD that it just makes sense. You know,
Yep.
the military-industrial complex is a very, very strong arm across North America.
Oh, for sure. And, I mean, we saw when, with recent events, Trump mentioning troops on the Canadian border, that was a little scary because you don't put troops on the border unless you're planning on doing something with them. What was that all about? What?
No, who knows? Who knows?
That went by the wayside very quickly, but that was scary to me as a Canadian because we've had this long demilitarized border with those folks for years and years, and now all of a sudden somebody is saying, like, put troops on the border? Okay, something's going on. Something's going on behind the scenes.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And now my question is, though, what do you think is hiding in Canada? Do you think we have contact with aliens and UFOs here, much like old Wilbur Smith back in the 50s and 60s claimed? Or do you think that we're very much in the dark about it? Because we never hear about the Canadian men in black running around to these areas saying, don't be talking about that stuff.
Well, just recently we've heard about some arms of the Canadian government that a lot of us weren't aware even existed. One in particular was it's essentially an arm of CSIS that exists to monitor what people are doing with different diseases around the world. Obviously, because this one that has recently come out, they want to make sure that this actually wasn't developed in a lab. This apparent arm of this organization that nobody knew existed has come out and said, no, we've been monitoring everything in those particular countries, and we don't feel that this is something that they would have been able to manufacture. So, okay, maybe there's other parts of the Canadian government that are there, and people are doing things that we have no clue about. No clue at all. And why are they building large complexes in northern British Columbia and running all of the traffic digitally through there? Everything that is all internet traffic runs through some sort of crazy hub in northern British Columbia. And I know this because the fellow who I used to work with, and I'm not going to say his name here, but he was the CEO of a company, a technical company that I used to work for. And he was involved in building this particular complex. And they are listening, let's just say. Everything that you say is being heard. I mean, Edward Snowden talked about it, but people are... You have no idea. They are listening. I have Alexa at my house, so I'm pretty sure they're listening anyway.
Oh, for sure. For sure. What about Cold Lake, Alberta? Okay, the Cold Lake Canadian Forces test range around there, it's huge. It's the size of some small countries.
Right.
Now, I realize I'm exaggerating a little bit there, but the fact is this is a massive area. It is similar in size, maybe a little bit bigger or smaller than the Nellis Air Force Range in the state of Nevada. Now, this is a place where Canada tests a lot of its arms, a lot of its missiles. There's not a lot of population up there in that part of north central Alberta leading into Saskatchewan. You know, there is a lot of things and a lot of area to hide a lot of fancy gadgets around there.
Oh, for sure. For sure there are. I'm not super familiar with Cold Lake, Alberta, but I am aware that it exists and that there is something up there that they are testing things. And who knows what it is? I mean, Canada did have nukes at one point, but we've decided to disarm ourselves. I'm not understanding why, but perhaps it's because we have such a noisy, well-armed neighbor below us that we don't think we need to spend the money on maintenance of such things. I don't know. But Cold Lake, who knows what they're doing? I guess Cold Lake, you could call it our Area 51 if you really wanted to.
Could very well, except we don't get to know about the fun toys that are being played with there.
Right.
Because we don't get fun toys up here. We just don't spend that type of money to get those types of fun toys. It's not fair, man. It's not fair.
Back in Nova Scotia, there was this really poorly hidden submarine base near Shelburne, Nova Scotia, which is actually quite close to the Shag Harbor area. But it was this, you would drive into this area and down this dirt road, and all of a sudden you come up against this Department of National Defense signage and all this kind of stuff. You have to leave. You have to turn around. Don't go any further down this road kind of thing. And people who lived in the area said, oh, yeah, that's the submarine base. But it's not published anywhere that it exists. So what else is going on in Canada that we don't know? What other kind of things? Like, if they could keep a submarine base hidden in a tiny little province like Nova Scotia, who knows what they have hidden at Cold Lake?
Yeah, that is the big secret. That I think that, in collaboration with our American friends and military, I think they're hiding some toys up there. Easy place to hide them. Mm-hmm. Easy place to hide them. And why not? Why the heck not? All right, let's move on here. Let's go back to another interesting case that you covered on your Dark Poutine podcast in regards to true crime. Now, you kind of touch on everything from people who just disappear, go missing, to strange murder cases. When you are choosing a topic in regards to this, before I get to my next question, how do you go about choosing the case that you want to cover for Dark Poutine?
Honestly, I like to tell stories that Canadians are going to want to hear. There's a lot of the news is really regional here. As you know, you don't hear about it's very rare that we're seeing what we're seeing now, where we see news conferences from all different provinces. And it's taken this extreme circumstance for this to happen. So I can watch a medical report in Nova Scotia and another one in BC later on. But typically, when the world is back to normal, what will happen again is the news will be more regionalized. So a lot of people in Nova Scotia won't know a murder story from BC and vice versa. So that's what I try to do, is just tell those stories that didn't make Maclean's. You know what I mean? The ones that weren't in our national papers necessarily. I do tell some of those because I feel like I would like to give my sort of take on them, but mostly it's let's find something that's really interesting. It was interesting to the people who lived through it, but let's share it with the rest of Canada. So that's why I do what I do.
All right. One case I want to talk about is, and you mentioned his name earlier, Jim Pattison, who's one of the richest men in Canada, billionaire businessman, and fourth richest man in Canada, I believe.
Yeah.
And back in 1990, his daughter was kidnapped.
Yeah.
And held for ransom. Tell us about that case.
Well, that was a really strange case. So she was living in North Vancouver, and she is married and had another name. So it was kind of difficult to find her, but somehow these young men stumbled across her existence and decided what better way to get some money than to kidnap this woman and hold her ransom, because her billionaire father is definitely going to pony up, so they thought. But it didn't quite work out that way. I mean, they were going to give these guys the money, but so what they were going to do is drop off the money and pounce when they got the money. But for some reason, they chose the Bay at Christmas time as the place for the money drop. Okay, we're going to drop the money at the Bay on this table and wait. There's probably more policemen in the Bay than there are actual shoppers, but it's Christmas. So it's busy in that mall. So this guy drops the money. Another gentleman wearing a balaclava comes out of nowhere and grabs the money and takes off. And they lose him in the mall. Turned out later he went into the bathroom and sat in a stall and had a smoke. But while he was doing that, his other buddies got skittish because he wasn't answering his cell phone. He's not responding. They are supposed to meet him at some certain time, so they think something has really gone wrong. This is in the days before smartphones, so he couldn't text them to tell them where he was. He was being as quiet as he could, although I don't know about smoking in the bathroom. But so in the meantime, his buddies let this woman go. They take her back to her friend's place where she said her friend lives here, so they dropped her off at her friend's place and took off. And she had seen them. They had taken her blindfold off. She had seen them. So back comes this other guy and says, "Well, where's the woman?" And they say, "Well, we let her go." And then these guys said, "Oh well." So they just started spending the money. And they went back to the Bay to go shopping with the money that was marked. Just crazy. So that's how they got busted.
How do you go back to the exact same mall with the marked money?
Right, I don't know. You're a moron, maybe?
Like, I mean, they had the perfect plan. They had the money. They let the girl go. They allowed, they got what they want. I mean, why not just travel down, go to the Lower Mainland or the Fraser Valley. It's a 30-minute drive.
Oh, yeah.
You're safe.
They flaunted the whole thing, and that's what got them busted. There was a lot of young people involved, teenagers. The gentleman who was the sort of the leader of this whole ring was old enough to be prosecuted and tossed in jail. And he later on, when he was out of jail after this kidnapping, he kidnapped somebody else and held them for ransom and went back to jail for kidnapping again. So, like I say, past behavior.
He's 0 for 2.
Yeah.
He's 0 for 2.
Exactly. Not exactly the sharpest knife in the tool shed.
What was Jimmy Pattison's reaction to this?
Well, he went a little more hardcore on his security. If you drive by his place in West Vancouver, you can see there's cameras everywhere. And I can remember after all that happened, when I was living in North Van at the time, and there are cameras all over the place there. Like, there is no way that anybody could approach that property and not be seen on high resolution. I mean, the guy's a billionaire, so he can afford all that kind of gear. But, he's kind of gone underground. I used to work with him at that place where I used to work. I was working telecom, and I would see him in the elevator, and he's an interesting cat. He still goes to work. He's in his 80s and goes to work at 6:00 every morning. And
he's a workaholic.
If you tell him your name once, he remembers it. He will call you by name the next time he sees you, which is pretty.
He's 91 years old right now. 91.
Is he that old?
He's that old. He's that old.
Really fancy jackets, and he goes to the High's steakhouse every day for lunch, like a $300 steak.
He's only worth $4.6 billion, so you can see why they tried to scam him. You can see why. Yeah. I want to ask you, as we only got about 4.5 minutes here, this is probably the biggest question that I get asked, and most frequent question that I get asked about any type of crime in British Columbia is with the missing Indigenous women up north in British Columbia on the Highway of Tears.
Yeah.
How close are we to finding anything out about that?
Well, here's the thing about the Highway of Tears. I do not believe that it is one individual. I believe it's multiple killers who have done this. Well, we saw Cody Ledjabokov was one that was caught. We haven't talked about him yet on the show, but we have plans to cover that case very soon. He's one who killed 4 women along the Highway of Tears. And there's also a number of truckers, because this is a trucking lane between the U.S. and Canada. So if somebody is driving their truck from the U.S. to Alaska, they have to go up through this way. And they believe that it's actually one or more truckers from the U.S. who are doing this. So one was, I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he's since passed away. But there is definitely some evidence that he may or may not have been en route around British Columbia when some of these women disappeared. And he even,
that's horrible.
He even laid claim to some, but oftentimes when these serial killers are caught and they say they've done something, they're misdirecting, you know, because if I say one thing and it's not really true, and you know, they'll never tell you the truth about something. It's part of.
Do you think that if there is multiple players in this causing this type of havoc, are you surprised that it hasn't stopped yet? Or do you think for any type of serial killer out there that they may want to, in their sick and twisted ways, be part of that type of legend as well, to say, oh yeah, I knocked that one off?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I definitely, if somebody has that kind of brain, that's something that they are gonna want to do. Some people believe that perhaps Israel Keyes, the serial killer from Alaska, may have been involved in some of those, because he traveled all over the United States killing people. And if you've ever looked into that guy, he is one scary dude. He would rob a bank and bury the money along with a bunch of guns in an area, and then he would leave. And he would later come back, dig up the money and the gun, go into a house, kill somebody, and take off in another direction. So he had apparent caches of money and guns all over the United States. And some people believe, because he typically traveled by car and he would have traveled through British Columbia, it would make sense if he were involved in some of the killings here. The one we covered in our live show, Madison Scott, is one of those ones that people have pointed at as she has never been found. She just disappeared into thin air one night from a campground. And some people believe that Israel Keyes may have been the person to have taken her. So it's a pretty fascinating rabbit hole.
Very much so. And the unfortunate part about that is a case that is not even close to being solved.
Right.
It's so not close.
Yeah. And Madison Scott, because she was not a quote-unquote sex worker or an Indigenous woman, she is not included on that list of women along the Highway of Tears, because there is more of a there's a specific type of victimology that they're looking at there. So her case is a whole other one, but it's the same area. So I don't know.
Well, my friend, it's that time of the night where we have to say good night to you. What a fantastic show you brought to the table once again, Mike. Tell everybody where they can find Dark Poutine. We got about 20 seconds. DarkPoutine.com. Just Google Dark Poutine. You can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We've got a really lively Facebook group with 8,000 members now. So it's called the Yumber Yard. I mispronounced the word lumber in one of the shows. So just go to Facebook and type in Yumber Yard and come and join the group. And let us know in the chat when you have to answer questions while you're there, and then I'll let you in. Hey, we really appreciate you taking the time, and everybody go to darkpoutine.com to check out this amazing podcast. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Spaced Out Radio continues right after this.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night, where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
You wanted new SOR gear, and now you can have it. The SOR Vault is fully stocked with t-shirts, hats, hoodies, mugs, and everything in between, with great logos for you to choose from. So head on over to spacedoutradio.com, click on the SOR Vault, and go shopping. Pricing is quite affordable, and you can look good representing your favorite show. So go to our website and pick up your new SOR wear at the SOR Vault today.
Hey, Spaced Out Radio fans! It's John Resig, founder of the Chive and Chive Charities. Our goal is to make the life of veterans, first responders, and those with rare medical conditions 10% happier. We do this by donating one grant item, ranging from vans to therapy programs to prosthetic limbs, to those who need it most. To contribute to Spaced Out Radio's official charity, head over to chivecharities.org and become a donor today.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, and while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there.
If you like it hot, real hot, then heat up your meals with Bumblefoot hot sauce.
Get your Bumblefoot hot sauce today. The sauce, Bumblicious, and the 4 million Scoville unit Bumble. We're going in hot, real hot, coming out even hotter.
Keep the milk nearby and tantalize your taste buds tonight.
Bumblefoot hot sauce, available now at kajans.com.
Cold drinks, great food, and the best music in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is the place to be, open until 2 a.m. nightly. Everything on the menu starts at just $6.95. Who serves food that cheap anymore? At the Moose, you'll never know who you'll run into. Rock stars, actors, athletes. It's the place everyone wants to be. So join us at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
At spacedoutradio.com, we are keeping you up to date on all the news with the SOR Newswire. Captain Shirk leads the team that is bringing you the news of the day and exclusive stories on everything paranormal and supernatural. It's free to read, it's updated daily, and it's right there for you. The SOR Newswire is a one-stop shop for the news of the day. Check it out at spacedoutradio.com today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Need that weekend supernatural fix? Look no further than Spaced Out Saturday right here at spacedoutradio.com. I'm Stacey Edwards.
And I'm John Edwards. Each Saturday night, Stacey and I are going to bring you the best in paranormal, cryptids, UFOs, you name it, and we're going there.
It's all about the experience and to share the knowledge with all of you.
So tune us in every Saturday night on Spaced Out Saturdays, starting at 9:06 p.m. Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hello, space travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye!
Hey everybody, the SOR Space Travelers is open. For just $5 a month, you can hang out with Dave and our crew privately in our members-only section. With your signing, you'll receive newsletters on what's going on with Spaced Out Radio. You'll have direct contact with the host during the show in our chat, live streaming videos, and a great forum for your posts and more. Become a space traveler now at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you looking for great advertising value for your company? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. We have a multitude of places to get your name out there, including commercial ads during the show, special promotions, and banners on our website. Our audience is proven to support the companies that support our show. We can make your budget work for you. So for more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. I want to remind all of you that if you've missed most of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. And don't forget, follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. And speaking of the news, let's get to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and the sometimes ratty. Oh, you YouTubers, you guys are driving me crazy tonight. Thank you. A rat decided that he would run behind President Donald Trump twice during his press briefing, and the rodent moved too quickly for photographers to capture his cameo appearance in the Rose Garden. President Trump didn't hear the notice, or appear to notice, that the rat, as he had his back to the creature, but reporters in the White House Rose Garden had a prime view of it as it dashed along one of the steps of the colonnade, in and out of the bushes that line the walkway outside the Oval Office. It appeared the first time when Agricultural Secretary Sonny Perdue was reassuring Americans that the country's food supply could be met and the demand was non-existent. Now, they shouldn't be alarmed that there would be empty grocery shelves much longer. It appeared again as the president was taking questions from the press about the nation's response to coronavirus. Oh, yes. I mean, how good does that feel when, you got a rat running behind you? The rat apparently looked fat and healthy and completely uninterested, by the way, in the news conference going on around it. There have been reports that rats have been affected by the coronavirus too. Many restaurants have closed, which serves as a main food source for the creatures, now leaving them starving. The rats are in survival mode, one expert said, and will eat each other if they have no other food source. They are mammals just like you and I. And so when you're really, really hungry, you're not going to act the same. You're going to act very bad, usually, said Bobby Corrigan, an urban rodentologist. So these rats, they're fighting with one another, and now the adults are killing the young in the nest and cannibalizing the pups. The White House, in the meantime, has always had a long vermin problem, and Washington, D.C. sits in the top 5 U.S. cities for rat infestation. In October last year, a mouse fell through the ceiling of the press area and onto the lap of NBC News reporter Peter Alexander. I remember that. Totally do. Outside the building are several black box rat stations captured the vermin, which are a high-frequent site in Washington, D.C. All right, moving on here to north of the border. Within 24 hours, Master Corporal Christopher Kiesick expects to receive orders to begin house-to-house checks of more than 2,400 people living in Moose Factory in the far northern region of Ontario. I believe hockey player Jonathan Chichu is from there. Anyways, former San Jose Shark. In an escalation of the work he's already doing with the Canadian Rangers to help Moose Cree First Nation prepare for the pandemic, people are definitely concerned, especially with COVID-19 being on our doorstep, Kiesick said. There is a little fear involved, but it's essentially my job, and that is what I signed up to do. The pandemic poses a new challenge for Rangers, military reservists who work usually involve search and rescue operations and responding to forest fires and floods. Now they're faced with an invisible enemy that could surface at any moment. It is definitely a little nerve-wracking, Kiesick said. Obviously, it's something that nobody was ever really prepared for, especially in terms of this large of a scale. It's nothing like I've ever done before. Kiesick is one of 117 Canadian Rangers out of approximately 700 who have been deployed across 30 northern Ontario communities as a part of the Canadian Armed Forces' initial COVID-19 response, said Lieutenant Colonel Shane MacArthur of CFB Borden. The Rangers are among 7,025 Canadian Armed Forces Class C reservists assigned to support Operation Laser. The Rangers, who will be wearing personal protective gear, could be tasked with anything from community wellness checks, identifying at-risk individuals and families, and monitoring critical infrastructure to transporting supplies, helping to set up remote clinics, and supporting COVID-19 awareness programs. The Rangers won't be involved in any law enforcement activities involving the isolation or transport of ill or affected people, however. We are not the answer to every single problem up here. We are a bigger part of the system and a bigger part of the team, Kiesick said. We are the initial response. Good for them. Good for them for chipping on in. To see shooting stars, you need 2 things: comet dust and darkness. This week, we have both of those things with the simultaneous arrival of the Lyrid meteor shower and a new moon. The perfect combination for anyone who wants to see fireballs in the night sky. It's semi-important medium length or strength meteor shower that's peaking in the darkest skies possible, as well as taking place just after a new moon, when our satellite is just 1% illuminated. A reduction of light pollution because of lockdown may make shooting stars from the Lyrids a little bit easier to spot. The American Meteor Society reports that observers can expect around 18 shooting stars per hour, each one traveling at 30 miles per second, or 48 kilometers. These meteors also usually lack persistent trains but can produce fireballs. Fireballs are defined as very bright meteors about the same brightness as Venus. When is the meteor shower, you ask? Well, it takes place April 16th through 30th, but the peak is before dawn on Wednesday, April 22nd. However, they state that the Lyrids usually produce good rates of shooting stars for 3 nights, so it's worth looking skywards between the 21st and 23rd of April, so next week, midweek. None of us are working, so go check it on out. Put the lawn chairs out. Have some fun. Best viewed in the Northern Hemisphere. Woohoo! That's where I am. Shooting stars from the Lyrid meteor shower can appear anywhere in the sky, but they will appear to originate from the constellation Lyra. Yeah, the Pleiadians are setting this down. Let's just be honest. This is the Pleiadians saying, we're here. Yeah, it's surrounded by the bright star Vega. That star rises around 9 p.m. this week. From midnight until about an hour before dawn is the darkest time of night when Earth busts through the debris left over in the solar system by Comet C/1861 G1 Thatcher. That's when to maximize your chances of seeing shooting stars. Okay, you got your next week filled out. Let's do that. All right, speaking of which, let's stay in space for a minute. Smiley face. When you hear that, most of you will think of the emoticon, not planets. But next month, May 16th, the moon, along with Jupiter and Venus, are going to produce something that's really cool that you should actually get your cameras out for. They are going to align in a rare position that will form a smiley face in the sky. This rare spectacle is called conjunction and is not to be missed, as the last time this happened was 12 years ago in 2008. 2008 was 12 years ago already. Holy crap. So not a regular occurrence. In 2007, this also happened in the Philippines when the sky lit up at night. How cool is this? So apparently, this is what happens. When one object passes in front of another from an observer's perspective, a simple example is a solar eclipse. From a certain area on Earth, the moon passes in front of the sun and either partially or totally blocks the light. So we can say that the sun is eclipsed or occulted. Venus passed in front of Jupiter in 1818, and more than likely this occultation will happen again in 2065, even though this occurrence that will take place in May might seem to be an occultation. It is, as they say, a conjunction. Yes, it is a conjunction. In astronomy, a conjunction occurs when any two astronomical objects, such as asteroids, moons, planets, and stars, appear to be close together in the sky as observed from Earth. What is particularly interesting with this special event is how the human brain identifies with it. As when we see this phenomena, our minds are geared to take a picture of it and just give it a label, and in this scenario, it is called the smiley face. Actually, it is just the planets aligning during a usual cycle around the sun, but forming a smiley face does sound appealing. What is rare is that Jupiter does not usually align so close with the moon as Venus regularly does once a month. So when Jupiter finally does, it will look like it and Venus are the two eyes, and the moon as the big mouth and the delightful smile. So make sure you check that on out. May 16th. We all got to look at that. That's going to be fun. Drone footage has shown a 1.5-mile long line of cars outside a drive-through food distribution site in South Florida where thousands of people are seeking help to feed their families amid coronavirus. Hundreds of cars packed bumper to bumper on the roadway in Sunrise on Wednesday, waiting to pick up essential food items from Feeding South Florida. Similar long lines are cropping around the Miami metro area on a daily basis as FSF holds dozens of distribution events to keep up with soaring demand from families hit hard by the crisis gripping the nation. The organization says it has seen a 600% increase in the number of people asking for food over the past couple of weeks amid widespread layoffs affecting an estimated 500,000 Floridians. Oh, that's scary. That's scary. Yeah, so the drive-thru at the Sunrise Tennis Club Park was one of 6 being held by the FSF on Wednesday. The food bank scheduled 27 distribution events across the metropolitan area this week after last week's events drew huge crowds. Organizers said they have already been given out more than 10 million pounds of food in the past few weeks, providing roughly 2.5 million meals over each 7-day period. Our families are scared, Paco Velez, president and CEO of Feeding South Florida, says. They don't know when they're going to get a job, if they're going to get a job, and when they're going to get food on the table. So for us, it's really about ensuring that we're bringing in as much as possible and getting it on the tables of these families. Keeping up with the massive demand has posed a challenge as the nation's food supply chains experience disruptions due to the pandemic. As we go and look at purchasing products from our national relationships, you see that there is a 2-week, 3-week, sometimes even 4-week lag time, Velez says. Some of the items we are looking at they tell us that we won't be able to get it until mid-May, but waiting weeks isn't an option for FSF. So instead, they are focusing on supply from farmers. We're trying to have as many relationships as possible with as many growers as we can, as well as many manufacturers as we can. FSF is now operating 24 hours a day to try and offset some of these waiting times. That's kind of sad when you think about it. Here's a weird one about the coronavirus. People around the world are now celebrating the rare opportunity to leave their houses by dressing in their finest clothes to take out the trash. I'll tell you, rolling the dumpster out has never looked so good. Ever. Followers of the trend from New South Wales to New York are sharing photos online of themselves donning prom dresses, Superman costumes, and their Sunday best to make the most of a rare trip outside. One woman even wore her old wedding dress for the task. So basically, the bin goes out more than us, so let's dress up for the occasion, wrote Facebook group Bin Isolation Outing founder Danielle Askew, a kindergarten teacher from Hervey Bay in Queensland, Australia. All right. Askew's group has more than 800,000 members and clocks hundreds of posts a day, as well as inspiring other groups around the world. A photo of Askew herself in a floor-length aqua ball gown and gold crown graces page the header. Or the page's header. Graces the page's header. That's bad writing right there. The concept has taken off because people are social beings, and because we're isolated away from everyone, this is a great way that we are able to reach out to mankind, make friends, have a laugh, and still stay sane while we are isolated. I guess they're having a rougher time than I am. Anyways, this is going on. It's kind of funny. Check it on out. Here's a cool story as we're going to wrap it up and get to the thought of the day. Captain Tom Moore, a British war veteran, completed the last 100 laps of his garden on Thursday, raising more than £15.4 million or $19 million for the health service in a feat that has spread joy across the country amid the corona gloom. For all those people who are finding it difficult at the moment, the sun will shine on you again and the clouds will go away, said Moore, dressed in a blazer and tie and displaying his war medals after completing his walk. The retired Army captain, who has used a walking frame with wheels since breaking his hip, set himself the target of walking the 25 meters around the garden 100 times before his 100th birthday on April 30th. He completed his challenge to praise from around the country and beyond, and a salute from soldiers in the regiment which replaced his own. I feel fine, he said. Raised in Yorkshire, northern England, Moore served in India, Burma, and Sumatra during World War II. He said the walk was inspired by the care he received from Britain's state-run National Health Service when he broke his hip and when he went in for treatment for cancer. He originally started with a target of 1,000 pounds. But that modest aim was blown away as media attention from around the globe zoomed in on his garden in Bedfordshire, central England. The story lifted hearts around the nation that was locked down, weary of relentless waves of grim news. It has also embodied an outpouring of gratitude for Britain's doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers on the front line of the fight against the pandemic. So far, nearly 13,000 people with COVID have died in British hospitals, the fifth highest total globally. Okay, let's get to the thought of the day. Shirk, we're going to have to save the shark story for tomorrow because I don't want to get scared tonight. Thought of the day happens every night at this time, where we wait for Marty on Twitter, one of our favorite veterans who listens to this show, to post a clown. Then we can read the thought of the day, which is a question I post on Facebook and Twitter, and then read your responses on the air. So today's thought of the day is this. Since the lockdown, name 3 things that you're sick of looking at in your house. Goddess Michelle, I wish I had time to get sick of things. I'm sick of hearing my mother whine about it. Marty, my to-do list, my wife's honey-do list, and my empty sports page in the newspaper. Shanna Banana, I'd rather name things that I love looking at in my house, my sweet little doggies, framed concert posters, and ducks returning to the pond in the backyard to make more little ducklings. Very cool. Anthony, my brother's kids' schoolwork, my tattoo work area office, Xbox screen my nephews are glued to. Kim, nothing, nothing, and nothing. Joe, the television, out the window, the clock. It makes me realize that given a choice as a spirit, hell, if I am hanging around the same place all the time, I'm out. Rona, laundry, laundry, laundry. Lynn, she's hating her old ugly couches. Eric with a K, we are his fourth favorite show. CNN, Fox, and White House briefings. Thank you for that, Eric with a K. All right, moving on here. Oh, where'd it go now? Where did it go? Disappeared on me. It totally just disappeared on me. There it is. Catherine, the kitchen, the bathroom, the walls. Linda, dirty dishes, food, and my husband. Oh, my goodness. Chris, the clock makes the days longer. Andrea, everything, including the people. Tim, this ugly old fart in the mirror, same guy's cooking, and awful house cleaning. Oh, yes. Nicholas, my pile of unpainted miniatures and RPG crafts, and the 2-read book pile. I have been spending time trying to figure out if a Science Bob and Sweet Stevie comic would be viable. Oh, you have to do that, Filth. You have to do that. Lisa, sad that it gets light earlier and all of you think that the day is that much longer. Kevin and Kevin's beard, 2 separate entities. Nothing at all. Being able to spend this much time at home with the family has been a blessing. I will miss it when I'm back at work. Oh, so positive. Greg, television, Facebook, and the news. Bill is sick of his computer. Nikki, the clocks and the clicking of time going by. The stack of projects I'm working on but are taking longer than anticipated. And the dirty dishes that get cleaned but then dirty and piled again. Dorothy, I'm not home much since I work in a pharmacy. I would love to be able to sit at home or just go for a walk. God bless you for doing that. Evan, thanks, buddy. This is my good friend who I worked at radio with. He goes, these questions on Facebook, Dave. Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Final word goes to Uncle Dale. These bloody monitors. I have 150% of the work that I had before the plague, and I am frazzled. Thank you to everybody who participated in the Thought of the Day. We will do it all again tomorrow. And a big thank you to Captain Shirk for getting the great news put together. And we got a shark story for you tomorrow because she knows she likes to scare me. And, of course, check out Dark Poutine at darkpoutine.com. Thank you, Mike Browne, for coming on the show and being absolutely awesome tonight. Once again, you outdid yourself, my friend. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us on in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thanks to everyone participating in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the Space Travelers Club on our website, and to all the snarkers and snarkettes snarking away on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You made the evening all very entertaining. Thank you. I know you're out there somewhere. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends, we own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Have a great night, everybody. I'm so glad you were here with us tonight. Let's do it all again tomorrow. Why not? We can do it. Let's hang out. See you tomorrow. Good night.